Hello everyone and welcome to the 60X Business Show. My name is Kitumaini and together with my guests we'll have different conversations about business, entrepreneurship and life. This is the show you've been waiting for. Stay tuned. In today's conversation, my guest is an amazing entrepreneur. He's the CEO and founder of Henri Group, and he's also an author of the book called My African Dream. And in the studio, he's none other than Henri Nyakarundi. Henri, welcome to the conversation.
Thanks, Christian, for having me.
How are you today?
I'm good, man. I can't complain.
Wonderful. So relax. On the 60X, we'll be spinning the wheel, and from there, we'll directly ask you a question. I've been really waiting to have you on the show for a while, and I'm glad that today we can have it.
Man, thanks. Thanks for having me, for sure.
How have you been? How are you coping with COVID-19? We're still in the pandemic. Looks like there's still some long way to go. How are you coping up?
Well, I try not to complain anymore. I complained for a year last year. Now I'm trying to deal with it. I mean, it is what it is. It's not going anywhere. So you just got to find a way around it. So I'm just dealing with it.
Wonderful. Let's dive deeper into the show. Over to you. You can spin the wheel.
Start spinning. Okay.
What's your lucky number?
You know, I don't have lucky number, but I like number 10. My dad was football fan, soccer fan, and number 10 was his number.
Okay, let's hope you get number 10 during the show. Let's start with number 8. You got 8 there, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, that's 8.
That's 8. Wonderful. Can you tell us more who is Henri, and growing up as a kid, what were your dreams and passion?
Man, that's going way back. But briefly, I mean, I grew up in Burundi. My parents were refugees there. So most of my life I spent from 0 to 18. It was in Burundi. I went to a French school. My life was very basic, man. We lived in urban, you know, in Bujumbura. It was a lot of fun. It was a very good time. Yeah, there's not much. I was not a good kid, as they say. I was a little bit of a troublemaker. But just I believe that every kid does a little bit of trouble. But I was a little bit of a rebel when I was a kid, man. I always wanted to do my stuff my way. Yeah. But I've always loved adventure and trying new stuff. And at least that's from 0 to 18, kind of my life in Bujumbura.
Okay, are there a few things growing up you aspire to achieve one day, and you living those now?
No, my inspiration started in the U.S. Early on, basketball, I was a big basketball fan. So me and my friends, we used to think we were going to get to the NBA. I mean, we had dreams like anybody else. But our basketball skill sets was below average to say the best. But we didn't have dreams. I mean, at that time, school education was the way to go. And I was not an academic. My grades was very average. I was very good in math, but that was about it. And sports, and that's about it. So my dream was very basic. Try to get a job, earn a basic income, and that was it. You know, I didn't think about some big dreams back then.
Wonderful. That's amazing. For some viewers, Henri is the CEO and founder of Henri Group, and they have Shiriki App, which is a one-stop center that provides digital services. And for the last decades, you were involved a lot into fighting poverty. Can you tell us more about Henri Group and the long-term vision of the company?
Absolutely. I mean, Henri was an idea I had because I wanted to come back on the continent. I was tired of living overseas, and I was looking for a project to do. And I looked at different areas: agricultural sector, renewable energy sector, and connectivity sector. But at that time, smartphone was not even big. That was in 2008, 2009 when the idea of Henri became. But what is Henri today? We're trying to build a new type of digital infrastructure to bridge the digital gap that exists on the continent. We have 800 million people that are still not connected in Africa. But a lot of time when you develop a solution, you're trying to solve one problem at a time. But what we've seen is you can't talk about connectivity without talking about energy,
Yeah.
right? They go hand in hand. So we looked at all the different issues that surround connectivity, and that's why ARED was born. You know, how to bridge this digital gap using solar kiosk, solar technology, with what we call edge technology, and create this one-stop shop hub where customers, especially low-income customers, because that's the problem when it comes to this digital revolution. Yeah. It's only benefiting a certain group of people, which is the middle class, upper class. But when you go to rural areas, and that's across Africa, when you go to rural area, refugee camps and all those things, then this digital ecosystem is almost non-existent. And that's really what the problem we're trying to solve. Wonderful.
And within your story, because I had you in different conversations, within your story you were working back in the US, and then you decided to move back on the continent. What drove your move to relocate to start your endeavors here on the continent, especially in Rwanda?
Well, I mean, Rwanda, so I initially moved back to Burundi because I knew Burundi much better than Rwanda. Yeah. Unfortunately, what I saw in Burundi, the ecosystem was just not benefiting for entrepreneurship. And I remember in 2009 visiting RDB for the first time. I was very amazed by this one-stop shop. I've never seen that. Even in the US, there was nothing like that at that time. And talking to people, Rwanda seemed like a good place to get started. But again, I didn't know this ecosystem. I've never lived in Rwanda before. I used to come here on vacation. So it was, but I knew I had to get out of the US. Yeah. That I knew. And I bought a one-way ticket and I just moved here. And in the beginning, I was moving back and forth between Burundi and Rwanda. But now I finally set up shop here.
Perfect. That's really amazing. Let's spin the wheel for another round of questions. You got 8. What's going to be your next lucky number?
Well, let's hope
you will get your 10. We never know. Oh, 7 is very, very close to 8. Your company has been in operation since 2013, correct? Correct. And you're able to expand your business operation to more than 5 countries.
Yes.
Rwanda, Uganda, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ethiopia, etc. And you have also bigger plan to expand on the other markets. What do you think has contributed to your success?
Well, I don't consider successful yet. I mean, we spent 7 years just developing the technology. People don't understand. When you develop what they call a deep tech, it's hardware and software. I was very naive of the cycle, the development cycle of hardware. Software is a little bit different, but hardware is extremely difficult, it's extremely expensive. And then I was very naive of how fragmented the ecosystem in Africa is. Because initially we had to pivot at least 3 times since I started the business. You know, so you have to do a lot of testing, and all that require capital. But expansion opened my eyes into one specific thing. You shouldn't, in any solution or any business you're doing, you shouldn't limit yourself to where you are. You should, you know, because your business in this country might not be as successful as another country, right? Because that country might be more ready for this type of technology. The people might be more willing to adopt this technology. The mindsets, like I look at Nigeria, they have a very business mindset, so they always embrace new technology much, much quicker than other markets I've experienced. So expansion opened my eyes of not trying to wait and develop a market very well and to go to other markets. Plus also expansion opened my eyes on what kind of model would work, you know, as far as expansion model. Because you see a lot of companies trying to raise a lot of money to set up shop, build a team in every country they go. And that's just not possible. You know, especially revenue-wise to recover your investment, it will be way too difficult. So those things, you know, the expansion really opened my eyes on how to build a model that will be sustainable and scalable on the continent.
Yeah, and talking about expansion, when companies want to expand to new geography or markets, there is the investment component that is needed, right? Why is it hard on the continent for entrepreneurs who want to scale, who want to expand? Why is it hard for them to raise capital?
It depends on the sector, it varies, but I'll speak on a general term. Again, and I'll speak specifically on innovation, because I think that's where the biggest challenge is. We finding money to invest in something is not sure, like a hotel or a restaurant. Even those are not guaranteed, but at least you know you can recover your investment much quicker. Innovation is an investment of the future, right? And very few investors are willing to bet on the future that you think will be, right? And at the same time, if you look at where most of these investments come from, they come from the West. I looked at the statistic, a lot of the investment on innovation come from the US, right? And US investing in African entrepreneur, it's complicated because they just don't understand the market, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of layer to this problematic. And unfortunately, we have to go outside the continent to look for money to build a local solution. And that's the problem. We need to find a way to build local capacity. And that's still a big issue in Africa. And that's why if you look at innovation today, it's dominated by foreign owners, right? They're able to tap into funding outside the continent. As an African, it's very difficult to do so. But if you're, US or European, you have billions and billions of grant access just to start and develop new ideas. We don't have that in Africa. And until we change that, it's going to be very difficult to build local capacity.
And you're talking about something important, until we change that. Are there some ways as, let's say, the private sector, different governments, and even entrepreneurs themselves, we can provide or talk more often about that and bring all those topics on the table and say, guys, we need to discuss how we can build infrastructure that can promote local solutions, invest in local solutions to make them more sustainable. Do you think those conversations need to be more often? Those challenges need to be raised enough, or what can be the long-term approach for that?
I mean, I think we passed conversation. We in the time of actions. I mean, we losing the game on innovation in Africa. I mean, I mean it really. We're losing the game. Because so what we need is grant program. African government needs to come up with grant program for research and development. We need better partnership with universities. Universities should tap and reach out, and both ways, to the private sector, to young innovator. There should be incubators in universities to tap into talents of new ideas. Universities should invest in talented ideas of young entrepreneurs. So again, we have to build this closed loop ecosystem to if we want to develop local talent. And when I mean develop, it's not just teaching them about innovation or helping them build a prototype. It's taking to the next level. I was mentioning something. For example, RDB is a great platform for investors to come in Rwanda. And to minimize the friction of having to go to different departments. But if I, as a Rwandan entrepreneur, wants to go outside and bring my technology into Nigeria and all, there is no vehicle for that, right? Why is that? There should be a vehicle where I can go to a place in Rwanda and say, hey, I want to take my technology there. Can you connect me with some people over there? That will save me a lot of time. Every market I go to, it takes me between 6 months to a year to build my network. That's a long time. It shouldn't take that long.
Wonderful. Let's spin the wheel for another round of questions. You got 7, 8. What's your next lucky number? Oh.
Man, I'm close, man. I'm close.
You're very close. You're getting there. Wonderful. A lot of business have been affected by the pandemic terribly, and we're still in the pandemic. And what are the opportunities are you seeing entrepreneurs can leverage from this pandemic to think more long-term about their sustainability? What are they teaching from this pandemic?
I mean, this is a tough question because, again, it depends on some sector. you know, if you know hospitality sector, it's very difficult, you know, to look at ways and bring experience and all that. But if you're in a digital sector, this is an opportunity now to try to see how you can scale your business. I'm a big fan of scaling outside the market you originally are, right? There's a lot of opportunity out there for entrepreneurs. This is also an opportunity for partnership. How can you leverage different potential partnership? You know, how can you leverage ways we can co-work to achieve a certain goals, right? Because we try to do, you know, everybody's busy doing their own thing, but I think partnership is key in a lot of ways, especially in Africa when we have this fragmented market. Another way is, I always tell people, man, get on social media, man. Talk, share the story of your business. I don't see that enough in Africa. We still have this mindset of, I can't share my idea or my business because somebody's going to steal my ideas. Yeah. This is nonsense, right? If nobody knows about you, how you expect people to do business with you, right? So you have to think on a global level, or I should say on a continental level. And this is an opportunity for you to rethink, remodel, and pivot, you know, and find ways to fight these challenges you faces.
Wonderful. And you talked something about social media, about collaboration. And my follow-up question, we've seen the way you do your personal branding, sharing your stories through different social media, through different platforms. Can you tell us what approach do you use and how communicating your message on social media has been personally helpful to yourself and your business?
Now, for me, social media has opened new opportunities as far as speaking engagements. That was not the initial plan. My plan was to share my journey to younger generation so they don't have to make the same mistakes I made. If you're going to get on social media, be yourself. Keep it simple and be yourself. Don't complicate things. Be yourself. And people resonate with authenticity. You know, they like to see somebody who, first of all, you need to talk about stuff you know, you have experience about, but you also, you know, be yourself. And don't be scared, man. It's between you and the camera. Forget about the audience. It's between you and the camera, right? Talk to the camera, be honest, and then the rest, you know, people will like, people may not like. I mean, I've had negative comments, but that's not the point. The point is you to convey your message to a potential audience. But yeah, I mean, social media has been a game changer as far as speaking engagement. I'm not going to say it's a business or it's a revenue that I can retire on, but it's fun because I'm able to network through my speaking engagement and travel. I'm not going to lie, I love traveling.
Wonderful. For some entrepreneurs who like to grow their presence on social media, just don't be afraid of the camera, as Henri said, and just be yourself, be authentic. Share your story, share your message, and just be yourself. And the rest will organically follow from there. Anyway, I'd like to know, how does it feel to be an entrepreneur?
Listen, I don't know about entrepreneurship is a lonely, lonely road. It's a tough road. It wears you out. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, 22 now. And I feel like it's time for me to, you know, A-Red probably will be my last business. That's how I feel. But entrepreneurship also teach you how to be a leader. And I truly believe that entrepreneurship is a game changer for Africa because it forces you to, you know, solve problems, figure out how to get to the next level. It forces you how to, you know, you're speaking, know how to sell yourself because you cannot be an entrepreneur if you don't sell your ideas, your talents, and all those things. So entrepreneurship is, for me personally, was the most fulfilling things I've done because it forced me to push myself every day, to push myself, how to improve myself, how to be more efficient, you know, how to, because you got to wear many hats. So it's not for everybody though, you know, because the stress level can take over, and I've known people who have had nervous breakdowns and all. So you have to be careful. How much can you take? And it depends also on the type of business you want to do, right? The smaller your business, the less stress you're going to have. So yeah, I mean that's for me. Entrepreneurship truly changed my life. That I definitely believe it.
Wonderful. That's amazing. And as you heard from Henri, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You need to make sure how many bullets you're ready to take. And depending on the business nature that you're in, depending on the stage where you are, it can also be complex and different.
Absolutely.
So let's spin the wheel for another round of questions.
Sure.
7, 8, 11. What's your next lucky number?
I'm to
That's
8
in
now.
between 7 and 8, I
actually
guess.
8.
Let's spin again.
Oh, okay.
You got it, so let's spin again.
All right.
This is so fun. That's
So 6.
Wonderful. How would you define leadership? You lead a team of diverse people, not only in Rwanda but in other markets, which takes a lot of your time following up and on different partnerships. How would you define leadership?
I mean, to me, leadership is you need to convey the vision you have for the company very clearly and in a simple manner, right? You need to, not just for yourself, but also for the team, to know where you're going. Because if you don't have a goal, it's very difficult for you to get there. I always say, if you drive your car and not knowing where you're going, you're just wasting gas and time, right? So you need to know where you're going. And leadership is also part of motivating your team. Because again, that vision was given to you, right? It's very difficult for someone else to adopt that vision. You know, that's not their vision. It's not their goal, right? So now you have to motivate them. You have to show them that this is the way to go. It's extremely difficult, especially if you're limited on resources. If you know, and you mentioned we have teams in 4 different countries, and I had to redesign the model as far as I'm not a big fan of employee. I'm a big fan of partners. Because again, you're talking about long-term. Employees usually, for me, the way I see employment, it's a salary. You get your salary, you do your job. But if you need somebody, you know, that's going to fight even when times are low and all those things, you need a partner. So we had to develop stock options within the company for the team. But we work a lot with also companies that share our vision. Not necessarily individual, but companies that can bring value to us, but also share our vision as far as the impact, what we're trying to solve, so on and so forth. So it's extremely difficult. It's a lot of failure and trials and tribulation to find that right partner, you know, and then you have to go to the next partner, It can take years, man. Yeah, so that's my definition of leadership.
Yeah, especially when it comes to partnership, it's as you said, it takes time because you need to bring on the partners that share the same belief, that they share the same vision, so that you can move along on the same journey together. And I'm going to shift the gears from entrepreneurship to your experience as a writer. Henri is also an author of the book called My African Dream. Can you tell us more about what motivated you to write a book, to share your story, and what the long-term plan? Can you expect some next edition, more books coming in the future in your retirement plan?
Yeah. The initial book, My African Dream, that was not even the initial title, but I wanted to share my story, right? When I was well, I still do, but when I mentor young kids about entrepreneurship, one of the questions they kept repeating to me was, why you came back to Africa? Why you came back? You in America, people trying to go there. You know, why are you coming back here? So that kind of shocked me a little bit because when we left, we also were trying to get at it. But I left in '96 when there was kind of wars in the region, so it was a little bit different time. So I wanted to share not only my trials and tribulation in the U.S., but also what I've seen the opportunities on the continent. The continent is definitely the future, especially for us. And yes, I am working on my next book. It should be coming out sometime next year, but that's more of a business book. I won't claim to be a writer. I just felt like it was good, and also inspired my kids, you know,
Yeah.
when they get older, you know, to see, well, dad was, he started rough when he was young, but
Yeah.
he found a way to clean up his act and did something positive. So it's more of a motivation also for the kids.
Wow, I like the purpose and the idea behind that. And what do you see the future of the world when it comes to renewable energy and clean solution, and how entrepreneur and businesses can leverage that in the future?
The biggest opportunity of tomorrow is in agricultural sector, agri-tech, desalination, water system, and all those things. We've, you know, if you look at this, the statistic or the data today, we have already increased 1.5 degrees. I was traveling. I mean, even in Rwanda, I've never seen this much. This summer was hot as hell. The world is changing. And renewable energy will have its place for sure, but agriculture, you know, our population will increase dramatically, will double actually in the next 30 years. Africa will be 2+ billion people. So I think this is where most of the youth should look at, and looking at ways how to, you know, use technology in agri-tech, because this global warming is no joke, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And that's really where my next project will be working on.
Wonderful. That's amazing. And during the course of your journey as an entrepreneur, what are the things that you've learned on the battlefield that you had no clue, that you had no information when you started back then?
Man, the biggest thing I had no clue was hardware development, man. That was crazy. It's crazy expensive. I couldn't find skill sets here. I couldn't find skill sets on the continent. I didn't, you know, when I started ARED, I started with my own money. And I had budgeted. I thought I would have a product ready to go in less than a year. It took 6 years to get the final products that you see today on our website. That was one thing. The second thing is I didn't expect to be this difficult to expand in Africa. You know, visa, regulation, things are changing, I'm not going to lie, but in the beginning it was really tough. I remember first time I went to Lagos, I had to go to the embassy to apply for a visa. And it was ridiculous, you know. You had to show a certain amount of money on your bank account. I was like, you know, the ambassador was not there, you had to come back. You know, so I didn't know how hard it is to expand outside Africa. And then lastly is raising capital as an African entrepreneur in Africa. I was very naive also. I thought when, you know, like in the US, you start a project, you're solving a big problem, there will be capital, you know, and I saw even today, I saw that's not the case. There is capital, but it's focused on certain key industry like fintech and all those things. But when you talk about drone technology, robotics, hardware in general, you don't see African in that sector because you don't see capital in that sector. So those are the hard, you know, learning curve, but you know, you have to keep on going. Sure.
Wonderful. And why do you think we don't have many African startup unicorns yet on the continent? I think there is Jumia only. Why don't we have many African startups as unicorn?
Well, Jumia is not African, so I have to be clear. To me, the definition of an African company is at least one of the founders has to be African. You know, it doesn't matter where they're from, and then the core team is in Africa. But that's besides the point. Why we don't have unicorn? For a lot of reasons. Again, capital is one of the reasons, right? People think we have to bring capital in a company when they're already generating revenue and all those things. That's not true. If you study the Tesla, the companies today that are at the top food chain, if you look at their history, right? They started, it took them close to a decade before they even made money. They were losing money, right? Tremendous, but they were still pumping billions and billions of dollars into those companies. Amazon was the same thing. They didn't make money for at least 10 years, you know? But again, we have a short-term mindset in Africa. That's our problem. If you tell somebody this project will be successful in 5 to 10 years, you already lost that person, right? They want to make money tomorrow. They want to make money in 6 months. And if we don't change our mindset, we're just not going to see. Now we see some unicorns in fintech, but to me, if we really want to solve the key problems of Africa, like look at data centers, we don't have. They're non-existent. We talk about drone technology. As African, I've met some in Ivory Coast and all, but they're not able to scale because they're not able to amass capital. If we want to see some real innovation that are African-driven for the African market, and I'll add a last thing. Another problem we have is our government. What I mean by that is African government in general. They don't buy African. They don't buy African technology. They buy foreign technology, right? And we all know that governments in general are the biggest spender in any country. They spend more than anybody else. If you go to the US, for example, the government mandate is, especially in key sector, you cannot spend money outside the country. You have to look for local companies to get those contracts. But in Africa, it's a little bit different. So that's also part of what we need to change. And when we change that, then we'll start seeing more unicorn. Then we'll start seeing more bigger companies that are local and doing very well.
Wonderful. And by that, we are coming to the end of this conversation. As Henri said, we need to change the mindsets, right? The mindset need to be changed. And thanks a lot, Henri, for making it to the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
No, thanks. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity, for sure.
Wonderful. The conversation continues on social media using the hashtag 60xbusiness. Till next time, be safe, wear your mask, and wash your hands. My name is Kitumaini, and you are watching KC2 TV.